what everything throws at her. She just wants to get out there and do her best and work very hard.
All sorts of problems running off the course at the back of the peloton. That's Lucy Kennedy, who we were talking about just moments ago, Phil, with great form, but getting caught out.
Getting caught out, and if you notice there, Matt, Emma Pooley's gone from the back right up to the front. There's a short descent, and then we climb Bells Beach, and she's going to red and dark red, I think they are.
Well,
Watch
we
out.
did say either the front or the back.
There's no in between. It's rather like Jeannie Longo used to race the same way, and she won about 40 World Championships.
Green and gold jersey of Australian champion Katrin Garfoot just tucked in behind Katie Hall.
Let's have a look at Lucy Kennedy. On the right-hand side, it looks as if she might have just had a touch of wheels with the rider in front of her, and as a result, she just slipped off onto the gravel. Whoa. And lucky she didn't have a puncher.
Well, she's done well with a touch of wheels to just slip off into the gravel and not...
Slipped off onto the gravel.
Whoa.
And lucky she didn't have a puncher.
Well, she's done well with a touch of wheels to just slip off into the gravel and not have a fall. As they're already heading up and the bunch is already splintering. There hasn't been an attack that's gone, just simply how difficult these climbs have become. It's only the very beginning, Phil. They're just starting out on the really hard part of the course. A lot of veracity in these climbs as climbs have become. It's only the very beginning, Phil. They're just starting out on the really hard part of the course. A lot of veracity in these climbs as they...
Really, he tells us.
I'm sure he did. He knows these roads better than most of us.
I have a feeling there'll be a few riders at that point in the race who wish they could stop for a coffee. It's not really how it works, though, is it, Matt?
Not quite. There's no coffee breaks on race day. Numbers pinned on, lots at...
For a coffee. It's not really how it works, though, is it, Matt?
Not quite. There's no coffee breaks on race day. Numbers pinned on, lots at stake in the Deakin University Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. The blue colours, the American outfit, this is United Healthcare riding at the front. The Australian champion Katrin Garfoot in the Deakin University Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. The blue colours, the American outfit, this is United Healthcare riding at the front. The Australian champion Katrin Garfoot just behind her. 500 metres to the top of this Queen of the Mountains prize. They've split the peloton up significantly, but the last part is the hardest.
The last part is really nasty steep. We saw the max gradient was 18%, and that 18% is toward the final of the QOM. There's only 200 metres left to run, so they really have to just put in a concerted effort over the top here. Emma Pooley making her move forward, Katrin Garfoot, but it's also Jannik Ensing of the LA Cipollini, the very bright colours. Hagen Berman jumping out of the field.
This is Lizzie Williams. She's a noted sprinter, Lizzie Williams, that she wants to try and collect the points. She's got her nose in front, but only just, as Ruth Winder is coming over the top in the blue colours of United Healthcare. Williams almost falls as she gets a little bit rattly. The Lithuanian national champion, Muskaita, is desperately trying to close in.
Well done, Ruth Winder. She caught them right when it mattered. She's gone over. She's won the only climb, official climb, and she runs out the Subaru Queen of the Mountains. Good result there for the United Healthcare team. She's from America, I should imagine, a little bit jet-lagged as well.
Well,
she's going to keep it going.
Perhaps they do. They want to continue with it. I'm sure that Cadel Evans would have been happy to see Lizzie Williams get the victory, as they've been out on the bike riding a little bit recently.
Well, the QOM, we saw it really kicked up with 200 metres to go. Lizzie Williams, she can do 200 metres. In her mind, that's not too big a hurdle at all. She's had an interesting summer, regaining form after a bit of a break. I believe she even tried out for the AFL.
And now the move by Ruth Winder. She had that momentum and she hit them with speed. And once she opened up the gap, there was no closing it down.
That's Lizzie Williams, I think, also getting involved there. She's won the Queen of the Mountains competition in the past. Interesting little move this now as they come through the feeding station, grab the bottles and keep going. Get some idea of the elevation quickly attained here. We're just looking at the clear victory there for Ruth Winder, 23 years of age, and settling down to what will be a third season now with United Healthcare.
So she will go out the winner of the Subaru Queen of the Mountains. It was Lizzie Williams who won that back in 2015.
Going to be Venus or Serena. We will find out tonight. In the meantime, 7 riders with a 15-second gap here in the Deakin University women's race. Let's go back to Phil, Matt and Kate.
Well, the race is splitting up after they've gone through Bells Beach. The Subaru Queen of the Mountains, Ruth Winder. She then launched an attack. She's been joined by 7 very strong riders, including Annemiek van Vleuten, former world #1. The previous world champion from Geelong in 2010, Emma Pooley, is in that break. Lizzie Williams has made the move. And now they've got reinforcements coming across because Canyon Schramm have sent Alexi Ryan over to the group.
Wow.
So this, all of a sudden, becomes incredibly dangerous.
I can't think who's left to chase, in all honesty. I think it's going to be left to teams to chase their own teammates now at this stage, if they feel they've got the wrong woman up front. But it's not gone yet.
Nettie Edmondson from Wiggle High Five looks to be forcing the pace at the front of the group with the New Zealand national team. Following up behind the front group, they need to stay organised. The gap is not too big, and they do look as though they're in a bit of disarray. Perhaps those other riders joining have disrupted the flow a little bit.
It's less than 7 seconds, the official time check. It's the Wiggle High Five team doing the chasing. They're the only ones that I can spot, of the big teams at least, who have missed this break.
Racing in a west-northwest direction just now, and so we're getting slight crosswinds, but basically they're pushed under those eucalypt trees, and it's going to close down here. That was a little bit too strong to allow anybody. Here's Nettie Edmondson on the front. She's riding very strongly.
Well, it's time to pounce. They need to close it down while the gap is small, because the chase otherwise will be too hard without other teams offering any support. And then the next time a breakaway goes, Wiggle High Five must have somebody in it.
They must be in it. A break of 10 or 12 riders without your team represented is a very bad sign. And if the gap opens up even more than 10 seconds, it's nigh on impossible to chase down as a solo effort. Nettie Edmondson, she's putting a lot out there today in order to bring this back, and she needs to. Chloe Dygert has jumped across to the break. We've spoken about just how talented this young rider is. We have a lot of expectations for her, Phil.
Class act, but Nettie Edmondson spotted that. She's brought the peloton virtually across. There were 12 women going clear there, 13 with the arrival of Dygert, and had to be shut down if you've missed the move, otherwise it was curtains.
Great to see the Australian rider number 73, Lauretta Hanson, riding for United Healthcare. That brings Ruth Winder, a teammate, in the break. The break is about to get shut down, but regardless, they've shown a very strong move, and perhaps what's to come, Matt. I don't anticipate much rolling along from the bunch in these final 50 kilometres.
Well, great riding by Annette Edmondson, who's at the front of the main peloton, trying to close it down. She's not there yet, but desperately close. She's on that team because she's a fast sprinter, and they've got high expectations for her to win lots of races throughout the season. Clearly, she doesn't believe that today she's a chance to win, so she wants to support her other teammates, and she's getting plenty of money in the Goodwill Bank. So when she puts the hand up and says, today's the day to ride for me, they'll ride for her because they know that she'll do the reverse.
Well, Grace Garner from Wiggle High Five has been on very good form so far this summer. She had a very good showing over the last couple of weeks. Nettie Edmondson is always on form at this time of the year, but it is
not that experienced in the road riding, but she's certainly taken to the road with a lot of enthusiasm, and by goodness, she's a very, very strong bike rider. She's performed excellently in individual time trials. She's not incredibly comfortable in the bunch yet. She started on the bike a little bit later in her athletic career. She was previously a runner, a very well-accomplished runner, I might add. But she adds a lot of horse.
Not working. Her teammates chasing.
Yep.
And this is Gracie ELVIN, who's trying to come across with Lucy Betchel.
This had to happen because it was the Polish woman on the Cyclans team. She got across, and she's been working to open this gap up. And they had to give
race.
No, there's no rest for the wicked. As the riders jump across to that break, they have been caught now. But as the breaks will grow in strength, ability for the pacemaking, but as the course gets lumpier,
there's where all those missing bikes went.
It's one of those yours, Phil.
Yeah, the yellow one. One with the lowest gears. Very well done. Lovely.
It is great to see. It's parched the earth at this time of year in Geelong, but throughout the winter months with a bit more rain, lovely, lush green rolling hills.
Just look at the speed here now, picking up a favourable wind just at the moment. We head out towards a long straight road, still plenty of hills ahead of the women over this last 48 kilometres, or indeed 30 miles still to race. The pressure will tell in the end for sure. And these women really thrown in a good race. Now we've got 12 riders clear there. Canyon put matters to right. They've got one woman across, leaving just 2 teams who missed. They've chased it down. That's our direction just at the moment, as the wind is coming out of the north, I think. Wind direction, is it? Or is it south-southeast? South-southeast is the wind, and we're heading just up towards the north. We'll swing into the north very shortly.
The peloton now all back together. They get a little bit of protection from the wind as they head in through the eucalypt trees, but there's still plenty at the front that are happy to keep
upright, fortunately, as though we're heading towards Bells Beach. And she's now making sure she stays up towards the front.
Well, our bronze medalist from the Road National Championships earlier on in January, Lucy Kennedy, came to the sport reasonably late, but by goodness me, she's a great talent, and a talent that I think we'll see go international in the next couple of years and show them her class.
Once again, it's the Rush team that are launching the attack to try and get away.
Well, good for them. That's the way to do it. Ellen Skerritt was the animator earlier on.
The Rush team doesn't have a sprinter that they can rely on. Should it come down to a small group, I think they would be very motivated to force a small break and ensure that one of their riders is placed in there. But at the moment, they're not letting anyone go anywhere.
Because through this section of the course, they're so protected from the wind, the chances of a serious break forming are pretty slim. How important is it here, Kate, for those that are the real contenders, the big favourites to win the race, to fuel up, to eat, to drink, and use this part of the course as a brief chance to try and recover?
The food and the drink, it is so important. This part of the course is where you can really win or lose by making those small decisions. Lisa Brennauer, rider number 12, she was world champion in 2014. In 2013 and 14 in the team's time trials. She's one of the more experienced riders out on course. She would be hydrating, she would be eating. She knows that as soon as they get out from these trees, back into the wind, back onto those hills and into the run-in, into Geelong, it'll only get tougher.
This is Holden on the attack again. Now, we've basically got a tailwind just at the moment. We're heading due north, the wind's coming cross to tail, and that's probably what's spoiling the attacks just now. But if they can keep the pace high, then they might split the field.
But again, this is one of those attacks that is just a brief attempt to get off the front. It's not one of the serious contenders. And a look across the shoulder, you can see that there's a sign of resignation already as the peloton closes in quickly. For Lisa Brennauer, who we were talking about before, as we look at the German national champion, one of her key teammates, Kroger, Brennauer is a big favourite. She was the silver medalist in the road race at the World Championships in 2014.
She's a very strong rider, and through the summer she's been getting stronger and stronger. She was third in the race Melbourne just a few days ago. Her teammate, Mika Kroger, she had quite a lot of bottles on board, thankfully
Pooley,
for her teammates.
Wasn't that Pooley just attacked?
It was a white helmet with blonde hair poking out from underneath.
I think it was Emma Pooley launched an attack. She's come back up to the front and gone straight off it. We'll find out when we get down there.
No, it's not.
No, it's not Emma Pooley, is it?
But it's the Holden Racing team once again. They continue to launch attacks. This is their third serious attempt to force a move.
They have a few riders in Emma Pooley and Shannon Malseed who can make a very big impact on today's race. They need to keep the pressure on through this section. At the same time, everybody's trying to hydrate and drink and get just a tiny little bit of recovery if they can. But the Holden women's cycling team, they don't seem too keen on letting them do that.
No attacks yet, though, to come from their big favourite, Shannon Mulseed. She's waiting until we get closer to Geelong and they start to hit the climbs. And 3 riders now slipping off the front, but the peloton not prepared to let them go just as yet. Looks like Barbiera at the back of the group, the young Italian that was in the earlier move with Ellen Skerritt.
quickly counter-attacked here. The tailwind is helping the reversal a little bit, I think.
I'm convinced that this is not the part of the course for the winning breakaway to go.
It's a bit, well, I think we're going to have to wait until we turn east, which is a little way away, the other side of Mauriac.
On one way, this is quite a relaxed section of the course for the athletes. They know they have a bit more protection, a bit more chance to recover, but they're anxious, Matt, because they know what's coming. They're coming up to inside the final 40 kilometres of racing, 36 of them, which are incredibly difficult.
Well, the Holden women's racing team once again at the front, and that was Grace Brown that was setting the tempo. Spore is all... One breakaway rider, KRISTY Glover of Rush Women's, has decided it's time for her to try and steal a march on the peloton. She's now out to an advantage of almost 30 seconds. They continue along Forest Road, heading down towards Mauriac. The feed zone's not far away, and that could be a chance for Glover to extend her lead ever so slightly. But Kate Bates, it is a tough task on her own.
It's a very tough task on her own. And I want to clarify, Matt, that the feed zone, they're not stopping. They're not taking on a coffee or a piece of cake. What they do is helpers from their team will be standing on the side of the road holding a water bottle out to the riders. As the riders ride past, they have to take a hand or possibly two off the handlebars and grab that food and drink. They're not guaranteed that they'll be able to grab hold of it. And that's why we've seen the riders drop back to their car. They have a better chance of refueling in that moment. But the feed zone in this race, what it represents is the final very tough 32 kilometres of racing. The feed zone itself is on a bit of a pinch. I think they'll be racing through the feed zone. I'm not sure too many of the riders will want to meander through and waste the opportunity.
Well, they've got no respect for KRISTY Glover, I don't think, because she doesn't have a reputation. She's 26 years of age, and she's just well known as an animator of the peloton. She hasn't got the big results, so now they're going to fight with each other, saying, okay, who's going to chase her? And things and mistakes can be made. That's how you win bike races.
But it's much like what we see at the Tour de France. There are 18 teams at the Tour de France that get that automatic invitation because they're in the first division of world cycling. The Rush team, it's a local team. They ride in the Subaru National Road Series, where KRISTY Glover does most of her racing.
Yep.
And she hasn't had any major results there, but she is always aggressive. But this is the chance for one of these smaller teams to shine.
Exactly.
And sure, she may not win the race, and the peloton is giving her a little bit of latitude. They believe that they can reel her back in. But by the end of the day, we're going to remember the name of KRISTY Glover.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is going to fill her full of confidence for the rest of the season.
And the Rush team have been a great team this day. They've had a lot of riders on the attack, with Ellen Skerritt as well having a little dig. We'll see what happens. They've shut down at the moment. LAURETTA HANSON, the Australian for United Healthcare, on the front there. All the women in blue from the American setup. There's only, in fact, 4 Americans out of the team are here, and they've been more or less here now for a few weeks.
Temperatures around about 26, 27 degrees. The wind has been
Perfect.
the major factor on the day.
Lovely. All in favour.
For those that did the Swiss People's Ride in the morning,
Yes.
it would have been idyllic. But for racing, it's pretty warm still for racing, and hydration is key.
Yes, the People's Ride.
42 seconds, so it's going to be a chase at some point, and then when they start chasing, it might well split up the peloton.
Bit of a lonely journey at the front here just now for KRISTY Glover, but she's not going to wait for them. It's up to them to catch her.
45 seconds.
And you probably heard the warning there. 45 seconds is the time gap.
She'd dearly love some company.
She would.
Bike riding, such a
There's the
social
left-hand
sport.
turn.
It's always a lot more fun when you're doing it with somebody else.
Yes, well, what better to ride alone like this ahead of a really class women's race in the middle of Victoria in Geelong. Beautiful closed roads, perfect conditions. Hey, it's better to be alone.
Well, that's the difference between a bike ride and a bike race, isn't it, Matt Keenan?
It is indeed. And you could see all the sticky tape that was on her top tube of her bike and on her handlebars as well, with key kilometre markers on what the main strategic points are of the race.
It's the best and the worst thing to ever do. On one hand, it's really good to know what's coming up in the race because you need to be able to prepare yourself. The last thing you want is to feel anxious about what may be coming up. You need to measure your effort.
But for all the technology in cycling, we've still got sticky tape and a magic marker.
Hey, the gaffer tape comes in very handy with the magic marker to help the riders out on course. She is looking down. She is anticipating what's coming up. She's got a good rhythm. She's still looking quite good out there. If we see a drop in cadence and an increase in gear, then, well, that's an indicator of fatigue, but not yet.
Well, as you look at the size of the gear that she's on the big chainring at the front, and she's on small sprockets at the back. She is really moving. This is JAIME Gunning now, who is responding. Holden Women's Cycling Team, they've tried numerous times to get away, but the move by JAIME has caused a bigger reaction from the peloton.
Yes, and that kilometres left to roll. Wait for it. Freewheel all round. Somebody else's turn.
As we get down towards the feed zone, KRISTY Glover off the front with an advantage of 41 seconds. Robbie McEwen, what's your read on the situation?
Well, Matt, I think it's a great move by KRISTY Glover, what she's done, you know, as a wild card team coming in, go on the attack, and she's chosen a really good spot to do it. It's generally been tailwind, but whenever the bunch turns, just a moment ago, they're in a little section, maybe 500 metres of crosswind, and things started to pick up pace again. Every team is so anxious to be at the front where there's any wind. They've had ample warning today. Every time there's been crosswind, it's been Ale Cipollini, Orica Scott, and Canyon Schramm going to the front. But this is a good move, and just in the distance I've seen a few little skirmishes. Now they've set up again. This is an opportunity for KRISTY Glover to push it out over the 1 minute mark, get through the feed zone, and we know from past years as they just start to come onto the edge of the Geelong circuit, that crosswind really kicks in. This could put KRISTY into a front group as they're on the circuit, but to win this race I think she'd need to build up at least 3 minutes lead.
For KRISTY Glover, what she will be hoping, as Robbie McEwen indicated, that at least if she does get caught, and it's in my mind inevitable that she will get caught, but it's not the whole peloton that catches her. She gets to that point of the race where the race back behind her splits up again in the crosswind, and it's a small contingent of the race that comes across to her.
It gives her a lot better chance of surviving in some form if just a small group jumps across. Robbie mentioned he thinks she needs 3 minutes in order to stay out there. Fat chance. I don't think the peloton will let her get 3 minutes. Orica Scott would be out of their mind to let any rider, whether one of the world or Olympic champions in the peloton or whether one of the strong domestic riders. It's just not a tactic that's smart, and they're quite a smart and savvy team. They're not chasing yet, but I think they will soon.
You can see the rider in the black colours on the left-hand side of the screen. Multiple Japanese national champion, in fact 5 times individual time trial champion of Japan. That's Mayuko Hagiwara. She's the rider that the High Five Dream, not the High Five Dream team, the Wiggle High Five team are working for today. Kirsten Wild, one of the big favourites if it comes down to a sprint finish. 4-time winner of the Tour of Qatar, winner of Ride London, silver medalist last year at the World Championships, number 41. He's certainly a rider that they'll be hoping they can drop when they get to the hills, because she is one of the fastest.
And he is here tomorrow. Chris Froome will race for the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race title. Right now, let's go back to Matt, Phil and Kate.
It's still KRISTY Glover who's off the front on her own, but the focus now is very much back in the peloton, as there's been a few attacks to see whether they can bridge across to the sole leader. They're still in amongst the trees, but not too far from here. They take another right-hand turn. They get exposed again to the crosswind, and that's where the race can potentially split up.
Yeah.
She's doing a great job, though.
She's doing a fantastic job, and well done to KRISTY Glover at the moment for the, as Robbie McEwen said, a wild card team in effect, which means that they're not on the big international circuit. And it so often happens that these riders animate the race. 29.8 to go. I don't think we'll see much until we get to that right turn, and then this peloton will go under pressure.
Well, they've been racing now for a little over 2 hours and 15 minutes, and they started under ideal conditions in Geelong. The temperature in the low to mid-20s, 88 riders taking to the start line, 15 different teams across 15 different nationalities. The first 3.5 kilometres, they were under neutral conditions before the race director, Scott Sunderland, pulled the red flag in, and then as they headed down towards Barwon Heads, it was the Canyon Schramm team that really lit the race up. They split the peloton to pieces. It was reduced down to just a contingent of 25 at the front. Romy Kasper won the first of the intermediate sprints in the battle for the GM HBA sprint classification. That was in Barwon Heads. The second one was taken out by Annemiek van Vleuten in Torquay. And then the climb for the Subaru Queen of the Mountains prize. It was Ruth Winder from the United Healthcare team that picked up the points. A dangerous group went off the fronts, caused a big reaction from the main field. They managed to reel it all back in, and as they now head down towards Mauriac, it's KRISTY Glover from Rush Women's Racing who's off the front on her own.
All in all, a very, very good bike race at the moment. Everybody's played cards, none has won the hand, so we'll see what happens now. For sure, they're going to catch KRISTY Glover. It's only a question of when and what damage will they do in the chase back to bring her back.
It's great to see the Australian domestic teams really mixing it with the internationals here. Of the 15 teams, only 5 of them are Australian, led by Orica Scott, our only international World Tour team on the women's scene. So it's great to see Rush Women's team really making the aggressive moves in this race. And Phil, they have been doing it all day. They've really been forcing the pace. Orica Scott started very early in the crosswinds, but a lot of the attacks have come from the ladies in pink. They're very motivated to get a result today.
Well, obviously, far right, Orica Scott with those green helmets. They stand out. They are the #1 team as far as the peloton goes, but the fact is they're keeping just 2 riders out of trouble, and that's Catherine Garfoot and Amanda Spratt. And I think we are going to see a very rough last 15 kilometres for everybody.
Given how aggressive the racing has been so far, I'm surprised that there's still so many riders in contention in that main peloton at 42 seconds behind KRISTY Glover.
They may be in the pack, Matt, but I don't think they're in contention.
No, that's a good...
I think they're hanging in there.
Good point. There's only a few genuinely in contention, but I'm surprised the peloton is still this big.
Well, Orica Scott, they really need to take some responsibility for the pacemaking here. They have a lot of strong riders and a lot of options for some breakaways, but they don't want to come down to a mass sprint with Kirsten Wild and Chloe Hosking. They really need this group to break up into much, much smaller groups. KRISTY Glover, she's riding away at the moment. Will she stay there? I don't think so, but if Orica Scott don't really start putting the work in, I think they're in danger of dragging the sprinters to the finish.
Glover will be caught, but she is putting in the ride of her career and is making an enormous mark on the race.
I think she's pulled away again at the moment. That's an awkward split for the peloton. Good job they didn't turn left there. If they turn right, of course, they go back to Geelong, but this is the longer route in now.
Left to Warrnambool and go and look at the whales, or turn right and get quickly back into Geelong and take the shortcut home.
Warrnambool's a fair old distance away.
It is.
200.
Second oldest one-day bike race in the world, the Melbourne to Warrnambool, behind Liège, Bastogne-Liège in Belgium.
So what year was Melbourne to Warrnambool?
1896.
Well, that was the year of Liège, Bastogne-Liège.
Well, 1897.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Must have been the year after.
I surrender. 40 seconds, they're saying, and she's still looking extremely good here. We're heading up to a right turn with more undulations. She's not looking at all tired. She's really shooting here.
She's in a very big gear. She's in the large chainring at the front and the small cog at the back. She's going almost as fast as she can in that gear on this stretch of road. It does make it harder for the peloton to catch up when they are travelling at such speeds. We're expecting them to average 38 to 40 kilometres an hour out there today, Phil.
I'm just hearing Garfoot is at the back taking service. I don't know if we can get shots of that. It may be routine or it may be a mechanical. We'll keep our eyes on that one, looking here where the leaders are. See, we're heading up for the right turn as we go back into Geelong. The little squiggles we're seeing ahead is where the course is rather difficult before we run into the finish.
And for the Orica Scott team, if it is a mechanical problem, we just spotted the colours of the Australian national champion, Catherine Garfoot, at the back. She's not in the peloton. She's behind the first car, which is the race official, the commissaire, a little bit further back. There she is with the team car. The Australian champion, Catherine Garfoot, she'll want to reintegrate before. It's been a brave ride off the front for KRISTY Glover. She would have dearly hoped to at least have made it into Geelong before the peloton managed to catch her, but here. She'll be caught just as they make the right-hand turn, hit the crosswind once again, and then the climbing really starts.
She's right on that turn at the moment. She's willing the turn on. These long straight roads are so deflating. There's the contours on that small climb at the moment. And then we've got the descents and then those jagged edges, basically downhill, but sharp ascents as we make our way back to the finish line, or the start line indeed.
And it was on that next major spike that we saw on that graphic last year at about 18 kilometres to go where we saw Amanda Spratt launch her winning move. KRISTY Glover, a big day out in front for the Rush team. Total Rush bike shop on Hoddle Street in Richmond. Great supporters of women's cycling. Last year in this event,
And
they managed to
say Phil Liggett, because they always give me a bike when I'm in town.
They look after you,
No, they do.
Last year, they got a prize with Bridie O'Donnell, taking out the GM HBA sprint classification. So, and each time they've participated in the race, as one of those wildcard invitations, one of the smaller teams on an international scale, they've justified the invitation and they've had a big impact on the race.
You've got to be in it to win it. I love the attitude of the domestic teams, and Holden have had a great showing here as well. Holden women's racing team, they've got some great riders, Emma Pooley, Shannon Malseed. We still expect to see them toward the pointy end of the race, of which we're rapidly heading, Phil. We're inside the last 25 kilometres. In the first 25 kilometres, we did not expect it to be playing out quite like this. That is a really large peloton. We thought it would be very small and very broken up.
Well, I still feel if this peloton rises its speed 2 or 3 kilometres now on the climb, it will completely explode.
Look at the fight for position. We can see the fluoro colours of LA Cipollini, a few at the front, a few at the back. They need to make sure they stay towards the head of the race. This is the defending champion, Amanda Spratt, in the blue colours. Carly Taylor now coming through from LA Cipollini.
They know the difference again. They knew it at Barwon Heads, and now they actually fly Tiff Cromwell again.
It's Tiffany Cromwell, who was going down into the gutter, the wind coming across her right shoulder. She's offering nobody any protection, and Gracie Elvin is up for it.
They're starting to open up small gaps at the front. This is exactly what we saw at the beginning of the race. We were starting to doubt whether they would actually get into this pointy end of the racing and quickly, but the wind has changed, and Orica Scott and SRAM Canyon, they've taken responsibility. This is a good move, and it's great to see 2 Australians leading the charge. KRISTY Glover's just been caught.
In the pink colours, brilliant performance, KRISTY Glover, animating the race, going off the front. It was around about 20 kilometres at the front of the race on her own.
It was indeed. Now we're all together, and as they say, everything to race for, as we're turning back to go ride in a easterly direction now, coming out of the west. And this should make it quite difficult. And Tiff Cromwell isn't missing a trick at the moment. Every time she knows where
at the race, she's had another dig. Catherine Garfoot moving nicely to the front now on the back wheel of Shannon Malseed in that white jersey. And following her is Mayuko Hajiwara, the Japanese woman. The stars are starting to move up to the front, it seems.
And once again, it's the Holden team launching an attack.
They have been again, I think.
So aggressive.
Well, this attack's been noticed because it's Katrin Garfoot, the Orica Scott rider in the very distinctive Australian Champions jersey, that is right on the back of that move. Inside the final 23 kilometres, every single move counts. They cannot afford to let a rider even go 15 or 20 seconds off the front. It completely changes the dynamic.
We need to pay attention here too. This is where it starts to get dangerous, Matt.
It is Mayuko, the former Japanese national champion, 5-time individual time trial champion.
The rider that the Wiggle High Five team are trying to protect the most. Another move now going off the front. This time it is the United Healthcare squad, and making the move is the Australian on that team. Lauretta Hanson now starts to open up the gap.
This is a serious one. She's really lifted the ante up here. Hanson driving on, caused a little bit of a flurry from the peloton. And this is exactly what they need to do now to break this field up as they'll go in and out of crosswinds. We might even hear the winds going up against our camera microphones out there. Hanson has quickly been joined here by Amy Cure, another Australian, on the Wiggle High Five.
Amy Cure, she's been a world champion on the track. Only the second Australian woman to win a points race on the track. She's transitioning to the road. I think we can expect to see some very big things from the future. Interestingly, a bit of a lack of experience. She's still got a water bottle in her pocket. At this point in the race, I would be ditching that.
We're getting towards the crucial part of the race. Let's head down to one of the most experienced in the business. Robbie McEwen, firstly, what are the wind conditions like, and what are your expectations of the last 21 kilometres?
Well, Matt, the wind, well, as you can see with the riders where they're positioned on the road, the wind is coming in hard from their right. A few skirmishes in the front. There's no team really committed to trying to split things up at the moment. The reason I think that is a lot of these girls now are aware that they've got quite a tough little climb coming. The wind doesn't seem as strong as it was earlier either. They'll duck down this descent, which is only a couple 100 metres in front of them. When they get into the bottom of the dip, they've got about a 1.5 kilometre climb to come back out. So I think a lot of our favourites are waiting for that, not prepared to attack just yet. But our best climbers, they're going to need to start to go to work on those sprinters that are still in the bunch, like Chloe Hosking, like Kirsten Wild.
Plenty of attacks coming at the front, just about approaching the final 20 kilometres. What we can expect.
Welcome back to the Deakin University women's race. We are 96 kilometres down. We have 17 to go, and the pressure is on now as they race towards the finish line here at Eastern Beach in Geelong. Let's get back to your commentators. We rejoin Phil, Matt, and Kate.
Our two leaders, Beth Ann Orton at the front of the black colours, Rushley Buchanan, the New Zealand national champion in white. That look across the shoulder, it's always a bad sign, Phil, that the legs are hurting and you're looking for company.
You could do with a couple more, that's for sure. The lady in white here, she's been 4 times the champion of her country. There's the peloton, almost just letting them dangle there at the moment. This is a long, nasty little drag, taking us into the last 17 kilometres. Another move coming off the front. Looks like Orica Scott are starting again.
It looks like Van Vleuten again, the Dutch woman it is.
Yes, it
and
is.
Kirsten Wild directly behind her. 2 Dutch cyclists at the front, then followed by the South Australian climber. It is Carly Taylor in 3rd spot, and how quickly they've closed it down to the 2 leaders.
Well, this is quite a steep climb. It's quite interesting to see Kirsten Wild sitting second wheel and looking quite comfortable at this stage. Chloe Hosking in the bright. We can see her a few wheels back behind. Van Vleuten looks to be struggling. Kirsten Wild needs to be careful not to drop too far back.
Lucy Kennedy in the white colours with a little bit of red on the sleeve. She looks like she's itching to go, but it's a little bit too early. She cannot win this race in a sprint finish, but she can win it by going solo.
Well, these were the climbs last year that Amanda Spratt attacked over and got her advantage to come into Geelong as the solo victor. The race is playing out a bit differently today. The conditions are a bit different. What we do know is it's been very strong crosswinds out there.
Geelong in the distance there, but not a direct ride for these women as they continue. We've now got a move here, and this is coming from Gracie Elvin. She's been 4 times the national time trial champion, or 5?
No, Gracie Elvin, twice Australian road champion. Lucy Kennedy is the rider that's behind her. This is the sort of move that Lucy Kennedy would like. Gracie Elvin was one of the few women who woke up this morning, opened the curtains, and was disappointed to see that there was no wind. The wind has sprung up, the race has been tough, and now Gracie is trying to steal a march up this difficult climb.
These are very tough climbs, but they're not long climbs. It's important to remember that if the riders don't really keep the pace on over the top, what they do is they allow some of the sprinters in the peloton to get a bit of recovery. You can see the grimace on the face of Lucy Kennedy. She's not doing it easy, but this is a good gap that's opening up, and the punch is single file.
She's not doing it easy, but she's prepared to work. She had an opportunity there, perhaps just to sit in the slipstream of Gracie Elvin for a moment, take a breath after that effort to get across, that she's prepared to work. She has gone directly to the front.
Well, we can see the field is very strung out now, single file. There are some gaps
starting to open out. They're going to need every bit of encouragement they can from the local fans on the roadside there. But it's Lucy Kennedy and Gracie Elvin
who at this point are really taking the race into their own hands. Orica Scott, we knew this would happen. We started getting anxious that it wasn't happening quickly enough.
Just 6 seconds at their advantage. Gracie Elvin, she's won some big one-day races in Europe. She'd dearly love to win this one. Lucy Kennedy, she finished in 11th position last year, having made the transition just in the last couple of years across from middle distance running and athletics onto the bike, and she's making a pretty big impact. 5th at the National Championships this year, Lucy Kennedy. That was in the time trial. Then she
was 6th at the finishing line. So she knows the course. They both know the course. Now it's up to the rest to chase. Two good teams on the attack.
Puts a lot of strong women on the defensive. They'll just watch and wait to see if this gap begins to open. The back half of the bunch are totally under pressure here.
Their only concern right now is hanging on to the wheel in front. All the drive of this race and the first dozen riders.
This looks like the Kenyan Tram squad going off the front, making the move. And on this occasion, the rider that has opened up the small advantage is Lisa Brennau.
Peloton.
Whoa, there's been a fall off to the left-hand side from the Masterland squad. Hitting the deck, it is MAKISE, Japanese rider from that team. Fortunately, she looks to be physically okay, but
how the race was playing out, it's the first we've seen today, which is good. We'd prefer an incident-free race, but it's an occupation.
On the road, world champion on the track. When you hear that tangling of carbon fibre, the sound of a crash, what does that do to the atmosphere in the peloton?
It increases your heart rate, that's for sure. It's always good to know that you're safely through it, because when you hear that noise and you know that it's behind you, there is a sense of relief that you weren't
take a look at this. She might get
involved.
back here.
Well, this is great to see, even if she doesn't get back, the fact that she's back on her
Yeah,
bike.
always good. Totally agree. In the distance is Geelong now as they drive on. 19 seconds the gap.
They've just gone over one of the major climbs on the course as they head in towards Geelong. The favourites are starting to emerge at the front. The former world champion from the time trial right here in Geelong in 2010, Emma Pooley, has made this select group. She's got the white helmet on, riding for Holden Women's Racing, sitting in 3rd last position. Gracie Elvin is there along with her teammate Annemiek van Vleuten as others scurry to try and come across.
It's only a small break of 10 or 12, but it's an important break. A very big smile on your face, Phil, with Emma Pooley over there. We know she's very capable, and we've been waiting for her to show her colours. That last steep climb, it really sorted out the contenders. It's not so much an attack that's gone, it's just that riders have been dropped as the pace was forced from Annemiek van Vleuten. A very good and a very strong move from Orica Scott, but she's got some very good company in that break.
Alice Barnes down there too, leading the charge. She's a very, very good fast finisher, and she would certainly see off Emma Pooley in the sprint. Emma's got to go alone from this group if she's going to win, but it would. She's just the sort of person who can do that sort of ride. Silver medalist in the Olympic Games in London in 2012, Beijing rather, in 2008.
And Barnes, who you mentioned from the Drops team, they're one of the smaller teams in the race as well, but they've been very aggressive, animated.
And now they've got 2 cards to play in this front group.
I know we're going to have 2 groups coming together. If these 2 groups merge, surely this is going to form the compilation.
It's across the bridge, straight up the next climb. It's a chance for somebody else with strong legs to split the race apart once again.
But they are leading up to quite a steep pinch here. There's not a lot of time to recover for the riders who have been dropped.
Peter Mullins now is making a move. Emma Pooley is following her.
It's
Marking
Janneke
that
Ensing.
move is Janneke Ensing in the fluoro colours of LA Tripoli.
Pooley is starting to open up an advantage. Kennedy is trying to chase.
There's Pooley dancing on those pedals. This is what she has to do.
Let's not forget it was the time trial that Emma Pooley won at the World Championships in Geelong. That's an individual event against the clock. Now for Pooley.
Against one of the best time trialists in the world.
At the Tour de France last year, we saw Chris Froome run up Mont Ventoux. If she has a problem with her bike, she still might be able to run to the finish because she's been a 3-time duathlon world champion as well.
That's right.
We knew we'd see big things from Emma Pooley up the climbs. She's opened quite a significant gap here. She does need to keep it going. The last 4 kilometres are a rather fast downhill run into Geelong. If there is an organised chasing pack behind her, that will work against her through that section. But there's still another 4 kilometres of quite lumpy terrain to get through, and the gap is opening up to nearly 30 seconds. That is significant, and that happened very quickly.
In the past, when we've spoken about riders off the front, like KRISTY Glover, 30 seconds, the peloton can control that. Emma Pooley, 30 seconds, the peloton's nervous.
They should be nervous, and they should jump on it immediately if they've got, because once this woman gets out of sight, the next time they'll see her, she'll be spraying everybody with champagne. 8.3 kilometres to go. A very diminutive lady, packed with power. She doesn't have a sprint.
The first 2 editions of this race, it's been a solo winner. Rachel Neylan in 2015. It was Amanda Spratt last year. That gap has reduced significantly. It can't be much more than 10 seconds.
It's a small chasing group behind, but if they can get organised, there are some very big names there. Taylor Wiles is leading Janneke Ensing and Annemiek van Vleuten, all riders with very big palmares behind them. It's the next 4 kilometres that really count. Emma Pooley, she's making some headway, but that bunch is closing in. What is sure is that the winner today will either be Emma Pooley or one of those small chasing group behind.
There's one more notable climb to come. She will know this part of the course well, because around about 10 to 12 years ago, the Geelong Women's Tour, as part of the World Cup, raced on this course and used the next climb that they're about to go up.
Emma Pooley's always found great success in Geelong, so she will be confident on these roads. She will know what exactly is coming up. Now, this group, I do believe they're capable of catching her, but only if they work together. This next climb, they'll take a right-hand turn. It's a very steep climb up that will favour Emma Pooley, but the strength of a chasing bunch, if they can get organised, I think will outweigh her. But right now, Emma Pooley is looking rather unstoppable.
She turns right and she starts to climb again, and that is the moment where Emma Pooley can extend her advantage.
Absolutely right, Matt. These are the hills she wants now. If they don't react, and there's a big group forming behind her, about 11, 12 riders, maybe more now have got together down there. And this is a big comeback for the 34-year-old, out of the sport at any level at all for a couple of years. Yes, you're right about her duathlon victories, but she left the sport. She's been very critical of British cycling as well, about sexism within the business. And she's now come back to let her legs do the talking here as she goes clear. Catherine Hall down there looks over for any help. But then we've got Annemiek van Vleuten right behind her. They're going to have to make a quick decision. I'll tell you, this woman gets half a minute. You won't see her again.
And for Annemiek van Vleuten, there's no sign of the defending champion Amanda Spratt in that group. Haven't spotted the colours of the Australian national champion Katrin Garfoot. But there are 19 riders in that chasing group. And Annemiek van Vleuten has got the responsibility for the Orica Scott team. And she is taking it with both hands. Lucy Kennedy is trying to go with her in the white colours. It's Janneke Ensing that sits in second position, and Lucy Kennedy is going over the top of the former world #1.
Well, it looks as though Van Vleuten is actually in trouble now, and Lucy Kennedy moves over the top of her. Ensing also a little bit incapable, perhaps. It just shows you just how quick Emma Pooley is going now. These are the undulations. This is Ensing in yellow. Lucy Kennedy joined at the back there by Ruth Winder from the USA, winner of the Subaru Queen of the Mountains competition out on the course today. Kennedy's becoming the star of the show here. Can she pull them back?
Potentially. She's closing down the advantage to Emma Pooley, who's almost at the top of the climb. She turns left, and then it's flat to downhill to Geelong, but she has been reeled back in.
Well, she hasn't got away. She's pulled back to 11 seconds by a determined group of 5 riders as the rest labour on the climb. The big names are in trouble. It might be the sun, it might be the heat, it might be the hills, but it could be this has been a very good attacking race. This is such a traditional style of Emma Pooley. Pedals low gears, sits very squat on the saddle, and just kicks away and hopes nobody gets up to her. Inside 6 kilometres from the finish. Kennedy's been joined now. Pooley still not feeling happy with her breakaway, otherwise she wouldn't be looking over her shoulder.
And now she's over the climb of Finesford, and the gap is starting to
Problem
extend.
for Ensing.
Mechanical problem.
Oh, Chain is totally locked up with the gears.
One of the strongest riders in that chasing group. It's disastrous for her, but it's good news for Pooley.
It's good news for Pooley and very, very sad news for Anneke Ensing there, the Dutch woman. It looked as though the chain had jammed up on the sprockets in the gearing system. And it's happened when she was 12 seconds behind.
3 chasing, with another one coming across. Ruth Winder, who's already taken out the Subaru Queen of the Mountains classification. She wants to go home with a bigger prize. She needs to catch Pooley before she can even consider winning the race. The Deakin University Elite Women's Race, and it is Emma Pooley who is proving to be the professor. There is Janneke Ensing. Bitter disappointment for the Dutch woman, who was clearly one of the strongest in the race. Second in the overall classification at the recent Women's Tour Down Under.
She's not really had a result at all since the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow when she was second in the road race. That really was her last significant road race performance. She's been away from the sport, she's come back. She's been very loyal to the women's race in the Santos Tour Down Under. She's been there the last 2 years, but done nothing. And now she's come here in an area which she knows very well. She's got happy memories from 2010. She's turning on the style again here. 4.8 kilometers to go.
The chase has got reinforcements. Mayuko from Japan, riding for Wiggle High 5, has joined them. She's a 5-time Japanese national time trial champion, and she's finished on the podium a few times at the Grand Prix de Plumelec, so she's a good finisher.
Well, if there's going to be any panic down there, now is the time to panic. 4.5 kilometers to go, 18 kilometers out. This is Mayuko Hajiwara of Japan, the favourite on the squad. Wiggle High 5, driving now, trying to get back on terms. Alexis Ryan of USA. I beg your pardon, wrong one. This is Ruth Winder driving at the front.
And she is driving, and she's from the United States, and she's been strong all day long. Hats off to Lucy Kennedy. And as an indication as to the international flavour of this race, the top 5 riders all representing different nationalities.
I'm just so surprised that...
like she's going to finish it off for Orica Scott.
Well, she's their biggest hope. In fact, by the looks of it, she's their only genuine hope at this point. 13 seconds.
Driving the pace now, the Japanese rider, Hajiwara. And they're pulling her back. Well, they appear to be in this shot, although we're saying it's still 12 seconds.
The clock back to 2010, when she won the world title in the individual time trial on the streets of Geelong. Van Vleuten, she was the world's #1 ranked cyclist back in 2011, Annemiek van Vleuten. So close to Olympic gold in Rio.
Except for that horrific crash on the final descents. Pooley, though, showing her experience, Phil, not looking over the shoulder.
8 seconds now, 3.1 kilometers to go. This has been an incredible, brave move by Emma Pooley, but normally she would have opened the gap. In fact, it's being closed down by 4 determined women. Hajiwara, Winder, Kennedy, Van Vleuten. 4 different nationalities hunting her down. Japan, the USA, Australia and the Netherlands. And they're just about to get on terms with her now. As they close it down, 2.8 kilometers to go. There's going to be 5 riders in the lead. 5 very, very strong women.
You can put the stopwatch down. There's no need for the time checks now. They can almost reach out and grab her. Has she got anything left if she does get caught? She's about to be caught, and then the tactical game perhaps starts to get played out by the 5 leaders, which gives the peloton just the smallest chance of returning. No, they're too far gone now. They're out of sight. It's down to this group of 5 as Pooley has been reeled back in.
2.5 kilometers to go. We have 5 leaders in the Deakin University Elite Women's Race. What a great race it has been too. Attack all the way. The Queen of the Mountains, Ruth Winder from the USA, is now trying to liven the pace up here.
With those official vehicles in the gap, that indicates that it is more than 30 seconds back to the peloton. If it was more than a minute, then we'd see the team cars start to come through. It's safe. It's a racing 5 with 2.1 kilometers remaining.
5 riders. How sad for Janneke Ensing, because she would have been up here without those jam gears, but she's not. And they're all on rival teams. They're all from different nationalities. So what are they going to do? They've got no friends now.
What an opportunity for Lucy Kennedy. The right-hand turn. Karayo Bay on the left. Japanese
Pooley,
national champion at the front.
sorry, Matt. Emma Pooley did what she had to do. Now she's going to have to try and stop this because Van Vluten's gone again. No, it's not.
It's Hajiwara who's
It's
going
Hajiwara
off the front,
who's gone.
and she's a multiple time trial champion of Japan. Ruth Winder now is responding. So too does Van Vleuten.
Well, Japan is yet to win a major race. Will it be this one today? They're quick to react. Ruth Winder's got them. Van Vleuten has come across. She packs a little bit of a sprint finish, Annemiek Van Vleuten. 1.5K to go.
The beauty of this sprint is there's no noted sprinters. Makes it so difficult to pick. And tactically, all of them are accustomed to being in a position like this and trying to break away.
What about Lucy Kennedy? What a return it would be. Bronze medal in Ballarat and Buninyong in the national championships to the Orica Scott duo, Spratt and Garfoot. Now, can she come off the back? Looks like they're deciding on a sprint finish here. We're waiting for 1 kilometre to go.
The chase,
This is
trying to come
back.
across. This is Zorzi that is trying to bridge the gap. And now Ruth Winder once again tries to go. But that's not the position to attack from. You need to come from behind and catch them from by surprise.
I must say, whoever wins this, it wasn't quite in our book. We didn't expect this, but these 5 women have proven to us they are the strongest 5. And I'm not sure just how far back this young lady is, Zorzi of Italy, but if she comes up, she can sprint.
Looking in the distance over the top of the cars, we can't quite see her yet. 800 metres remaining. Van Vleuten and Pooley playing the dangerous game at the back.
I tell you, Pooley's going to go. She's got to go early. She's warming up on the back there. They can play into her hands if they come to the finishing line 3/4 of a kilometre out. Ruth Winder is there. She's being tailed by Hajiwara. Lucy Kennedy, I quite fancy her for the win. She's in 3rd place. And Van Vleuten, watch for Van Vleuten. And watch for Pooley, because Pooley will open up this sprint, I think. Far left.
Van Vleuten's not going yet. She's just improving her position. She's trying to get onto the wheel of Emma Pooley. Pooley comes to the front. Van Vleuten is waiting to pounce. It's Annemiek Van Vleuten with all the pressure of being the one remaining rider for Orica Scots. It's Annemiek Van Vleuten who is Van Brilliance as she manages to get to the line and take the win. It's Van Vleuten who's not there yet. She's gone a long way from home. Ruth Winder coming, but it's Van Vleuten who does it in the end with Winder in 2nd position, Hajiwara in 3rd, Annemiek Van Vleuten. She carried the hopes and she returns with the win.
Absolutely superb win from the rugged descent of a hill remotely placed in Rio de Janeiro, where everybody thought she had died in the crash. She's come back to victory here in Geelong, and she certainly has deserved it as the peloton comes home.
Led home by Kirsten Wheel. It was Zorzi across the line in 6th place, and then it was Kirsten Wheel who led the sprint for 7th. But Annemiek Van Vleuten, what a way to end a 2-month stint down under. She's ridden the Crocodile Trophy. She's ridden the Tour of Pride. She's been across to New Zealand for a stint on the mountain bike. And Robbie McEwen is on his way down to catch Annemiek Van Vleuten. Robbie McEwen is with our race winner.
Annemiek van Vleuten, what a ride by you. You've done everything today. You've animated by attacking, chasing, you're attacking the ball, you rode with your teammates. At the end of the day, you've brought home the win.
Usually it's impossible, but today, so yeah, I was not supposed to be there. Had to help my teammates in the final, but sometimes you have to take over if they have not maybe the super day. So yeah, and it's a bit the start of my season here, and had a wonderful time here, and then to finish it off and fly tomorrow home is wonderful.
We had a lot of people talking about your teammates, Amanda Spratt, last year's winner, Katrin Garfoot, Australian champion. Did they tell you, listen, we think you might be going better today, you should ride your own race?
No, actually not. But yeah, you feel it. Kat was not super, I felt that, and I felt that I was really good, so pretty good. And on the climbs, when you see your teammates not around you, yeah, you know it's up to me. And I still have something in my legs after the work I did, so.
All right,
yeah,
thanks very much, Robbie McEwen. Well, what a fantastic women's race. We've seen a bit of everything here today. Incredible conditions here in Geelong, and we're hoping for more of the same tomorrow. Don't forget, it is